Welcome back to the Training Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Martin Olich, and joining me as always,
I'm Hilary Weber, and I'm Jesse Brock.
Hello, ladies. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am fantastic. We have a good show today. Who do we have on?
Pete Guzzo.
Pete Guzzo.
Mm-hmm.
And who is Pete Guzzo?
Pete Guzzo is a filmmaker, director. he works here in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You go way back with him.
I do. I've known Pete for, almost 20 years at this point. He is a producer, director, filmmaker. He was one of the earliest people to start at TBCN back in the day, which is our community network, our public access TV station, which we'll talk about a little bit in the interview. But he also was one of the first people at Tampa Digital, which was our biggest production company in Tampa Bay for years until it finally dissolved. And it's funny, we talk about it in the podcast, but most of our production companies here in town started at Tampa Digital. Like, you can point to an owner or someone, a principal within all these companies that started at Tampa Digital. So they really were. I mean, they're responsible for most of the careers here in town. So it's kind of fun to. It's
pretty wild. I had always heard stories about that, and I think this is the first time that we interview someone on our podcast where it kind of breaks it down. Yeah. So the takeaway for me is that this is a very local focus. Like, if you are a filmmaker in Tampa Bay, or if you're a crew member and you want to just reminisce on stories about Tampa Bay production or what it's like to be on a film set, this is the one to listen to.
Yeah. So with that, we will get right into the interview. Welcome back to Loose Training Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Martin Olich, and joining me now is my friend, Pete Guzzo. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Thanks for joining us early in the morning on a Friday. I'm sure you could be doing better things, but we appreciate you being here with us.
Actually, I'm glad to be procrastinating right now from work.
Well, then I'm happy to give you the excuse to not have to be at work right now. We always set these things up by doing a little bit of background. So you have a pretty interesting path to get to Tampa Bay. You're originally from New Jersey. Yep. So how does a kid from the Jersey Shore end up in Tampa Bay?
Jump to honest truth.
Yeah.
Florida women.
That doesn't surprise me.
That was really it.
Yeah.
I was 20 and I was going to college in New Jersey, and my brother moved here with two of my friends, and I came and went on vacation and visited him in Tampa, and I loved Tampa Bay. And literally 2 weeks later, I went back home, and about 2 a.m, I was supposed to go to a new college. Don't laugh, but it was called Beaver University. And I woke up and I told my dad, I'm not going. I'm moving down to Florida with my brother. And I slept on an air mattress for a year.
Was he excited for that choice? Probably not.
Not at all. No, because he already paid the tuition. And I was like, I just can't do it.
You're doing pretty well now. So I think
everything turned out well.
It was probably the better choice. Yeah. But you also went to the University of Tampa.
I did. As soon as I moved down here, I looked up universities, and it was USF or UT. And I decided to go to the University of Tampa, and it was the best experience I could have at a university.
Yeah. And how big was UT at the time? Because it's over 10,000 now, but it was probably around 4,000, maybe less.
I think it was about 5,500.
5,500, okay.
Yeah, it was great. Small classes. You had one-on-one with any professor you wanted. You know, and it led to where I am today because of my one class I had, who was a lawyer for public access, and he took us to public access, and that's how I got into film and video.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about your past in public access here in a second, because you were with TBCN, Tampa Bay Community Network. In fact, you're one of the earliest people that actually took the classes, enrolled, and then created your own series, Spooners. We'll get that in a second as well. But at the time, TBCN was located at UT, right?
Yeah, it was located right across the street.
Yeah, at the old Willow Studios.
Yep. And now UT bought all that. But yeah, before then, it was, that's where public access was. an amazing time.
And for those younger audience members listening, public access, if you guys have seen Wayne's World, that's what public access is and was. There's very few left. In fact, TBCN is still around today, but they're the only public access channel left in the state of Florida, and one of only 8, I think, in the country.
No, and it's amazing. And then they went to the University Mall.
Yep.
Over by USF. And I mean, I was, when Antonio was there 21 years ago when I actually started there.
Yep.
And to see her now actually running the organization, it's amazing to see.
Public access is kind of this Wild West, right? I mean, you can just do about anything you want. If you can propose it, if you can produce it yourself, it'll air on TV with very few restrictions. So you've moved here from Jersey, you're going to UT, you stumble upon public access, and you have the bright idea to create what?
Well, at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So all I knew at the time, I was 21, I was goofy, and I was a young guy. So I said, okay, let's create a show. And I told my brother and all my friends about it. And I was like, I'll produce the whole thing. I was like, I just need to have a guy's talk show. And then we started off just talking about what guys talk about. But then it transformed in a lot more where I was like, all right, let's shoot skits. So that's when I bought my GL1. If nobody, young kids probably even know what the heck that is. The first mini DV camcorder that actually was worth its weight in gold. And we started shooting skits. And I learned how to edit, and learned how to direct and produce. And I learned how to work in the machine room and how to be a technical director at the same time, and how to light with the giant, oh my God, what are they called? Scone lights?
Yep.
Yep. Back then. And yeah, it transformed me from somebody who is a philosopher major and radio, and moved me into film and TV.
Yeah, which is amazing. And the series is called Spooners, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
so
Spooners.
I'm pretty sure it's somewhere on YouTube. Maybe
it's there. You can get there's about 4 there.
Yeah,
that are classy enough that I can still air.
You and your brother had a very thick Jersey accent at the time.
That's so funny. You said that the other day.
I know, because yours isn't as bad as your brother's is. It's gone away quite a bit in the years you've been here. But man, looking back at those old Spooner episodes, it's like I can't. It's like, are you speaking a different language? Like, it's out there, man. But it's funny, and you can see your creativity and how much fun you guys were having on camera. And I think that was sort of the beauty and the joy of public access, because it was so weird. And for those who grew up in Tampa Bay and might have seen TBCN back in its heyday, we had Lobster Boy. Right. Yeah. So a circus performer from Gibsonton, where a lot of the carnies retired to, but Lobster Boy is exactly as it sounds, would go on camera and just had a red phone, and people would call in, and he'd get in arguments with people.
Oh yeah.
Then we had people like Joey Redner, who he's the strip club king of Tampa Bay.
White Chocolate.
White Chocolate. I mean, so many weird, crazy characters.
White Chocolate actually would go to the county meetings and argue.
Yeah.
Why he should stay on air.
Well, because people wanted to shut it down, but it's like, you can't. Like, public access is there to protect freedom of speech.
Yeah.
Like, it's, as long as it's not overtly vulgar, you can get away with a lot of stuff in public access. So that's sort of been supplanted by YouTube these days. But man, it's a shame that public access doesn't exist at the level it used to. But we're still proud to have TBCN and kicking and thriving here in Tampa Bay.
I think it's amazing. Yeah, when I saw the new studios, I was like, this is terrific what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that everybody's like still funding it.
Yeah. And there's a ton of energy there too now. So I think a lot of younger audiences have found TBCN and be like, oh, we can produce whatever the heck we want. And you have cameras here, you have facilities here. You're going to teach us how to use the gear. So that's super important. But let's get off public access now. So you've moved down here, you've graduated, you did a little bit of public access, started Spooners, and then some reason you decide, I want to be a filmmaker.
Yeah.
That's not a leap, but man, that's a gamble, right? I mean, I guess you already gambled by sleeping on your brother's floor for a year, but
when an air mattress literally every night would deflate.
Oh,
I'd have to.
Which, looking back, when I was 21, I probably wouldn't have had a problem with that.
Yeah,
but like today, no, my back would not take that.
It was amazing.
But you decide. Well, one, you gathered a lot of really creative people at the time that were very young, very enthusiastic about film. And a lot of them gone on to do amazing things here in Tampa Bay, yourself included. But one of not your first film, because I think Charlie Wall was your first film, right?
No, the first one we ever did was not, well, we did Joy Story.
Okay.
Was my student film, which actually was amazing. It was just so corny and funny, and it worked, and it was a great idea, and it was great because we had a cast of 50, and it was me, Bobby Carnavelli, my brother, and we lit the whole thing, and Will, and literally went to Joyce, James Joyce, that used to be in Ybor.
Yep.
The old one that was
upstairs,
on top, the upstairs one. And we went there every weekend, and we filmed from like 5 in the morning until like 5 at night. And that's what we did. And then at the very end of the movie, we're all sitting there and having a beer. And me and my brother were like, I can't believe we just made this feature film. We've never done any films before. Yeah. And the whole cast is looking at us, wait a minute, you've never done a film? We're like, no.
We had no idea what we were doing.
We just winged the whole thing. we pre-lit the whole bar. And literally for 2 months, the bar had all of those old tungsten lights just hanging there.
And, you know, there's a lot of people in town that are self-made people. But when I think of production companies, you're one of the few that really bootstrapped from nothing. I mean, you taught yourself how to do this along the way. You know, yes, you had a little bit of formal education, but you just kept succeeding and falling forward, if that makes sense. Like you would just try something and it ended up working out. You're a very lucky person. I mean that in a cosmic sense. But let's move on to Delson, because I think it's a really interesting story. So let's say your first, would you call it your first big funded film?
No, Cage Dreams was our first big funded.
Okay, but that was just a trailer though, right?
It was a short. It was a short, and unfortunately it was a pretty major picture that we did, major production that we did. I mean, we got a MMA cage, an octagon, and dropped it in the middle of a building. Yeah. And like lit everything. We created a backlot, which is now Armature Works. And it was supposed to turn into a feature, but unfortunately at that time, that's when the recession hit. Yeah. Yeah. Then we did Delson. And it's funny, Delson, which is completely oppositely funded. We spent $5,000 on it.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you spent more on Cage Dreams, which ended up being a really creative short.
Yeah, we spent about $175 on Cage Dreams,
and then you made a feature film for $5,000. Well, it looks a lot better than that. So let's give the audience an idea of what Delson's about.
So Delson, and everyone, a lot of people are saying it's like the Will Smith, but when you watch it, it's nothing like that Will Smith superhero where he was like the superhero that couldn't die. Yeah, yeah, it's not that at all. It's a comic book fanboy film with history to it. So what we actually did, we created a whole, we actually created the history about this guy who's been alive forever and can't die. And he doesn't want to be a superhero. He doesn't want to be anything, but it's a mockumentary, but not a funny mockumentary. Yeah. And the guy's name is Delson. And he has comic books written about him. There's artwork. We actually had a whole, art festival where people came and they drew artwork about Delson and the comic book hero. And it was all on display and people actually bought the artwork. It was amazing. And we used all that in the feature. And then we created for about 3 months, we shot the whole film and it turned out amazing. The only problem was with it is that at the time, the reporter who was trying to really let everybody know who this character was, Delson was, he got obsessed with them so much that all he wanted to do is prove that this guy has been alive for years and that he's an amazing guy, and the guy would never admit to him anything. So he went to a museum one day and the reporter and started killing people, hoping that Delson would
step up and do something.
Step up and save everybody's lives. And he didn't. He was just there and he wouldn't do anything. And so we finished the film, and it got purchased, and then all of a sudden that was when all the mass murders start happening.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately it never got released, and nothing ever happened with it.
Yeah. So it just was shelved. So you spent all that time, energy, not a lot of money, but monies.
And the distribution company owned it for 10 years. And they shelved it, and we couldn't get it back. We just got it back about 2 years ago.
That's wild. Is there any plans to try to redistribute it? I mean, I think this is a time that you could probably get away with it and put it out there somewhere.
I think at this point, unfortunately, there's still mass murders, especially the ones in Kansas City that just happened.
Yep.
So, but I think people are getting a little numb to it now, which is kind of sad. So I think we can actually release it again.
Yeah. It's a really good film.
Get distribution. Yeah. Yeah. It was a really good film. Like if you watched it for a while, most people didn't even know it wasn't a mockumentary. They thought it was an actual documentary because we did everything, found footage, GoPros, shots, like everything you can think of to make it feel like it was a real thing. Like I was just saying about the artwork. We even had Jack Harris. We went on a radio show with Jack Harris, and Jack Harris actually went ahead and made it sound like it was a real thing going on.
Yeah.
Like it was really cool.
I remember you shot it at the Photographic Museum, right?
Yeah. We shot
the ending scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, that was so long ago.
Yeah. We shot the Tampa Museum of Art.
Tampa Museum of Art. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah. We shot at the Tampa Museum of Art one day, and people actually at one point thought there's actually a mass murder going on. That's how real we made it look.
It's not what the film commission wants to hear, but
but it was really cool.
Yeah,
like we shot it it was when mockumentaries were still kind of getting it. It was when they were first kind of like getting pronounced to the world.
Yeah, this was back. I mean, it was a little past Blair Witch Project, but it was still like when found footage was still very, very popular. Yeah. And I do remember you did it very, very well. It was very serious and earnest as far as the take went, and it did feel like this was actually something that was real.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time. I mean, when we went to New York City, I went there literally by myself with the actor, and I just filmed everything in Manhattan, Times Square, at the parks, and everywhere. We went to Asylum and shot stuff there. Like all the interviews we did were actually real. Stephen Bauer, I filmed Stephen Bauer just by myself. We filmed one of the Blair Witch Project producers just by myself, and everybody just bought into what it was.
Yeah.
They actually just all said, yes, I know Delson. I remember him. I know the comics, or I know the history of him. Everyone just bought into it. So it was really cool that we got all these stars who are in the film, and they really just bought into the idea that this was real. And they did an amazing job.
They did. It was very, very authentic and very earnest, like I said. You've been in this market since 2000, 2001-ish. And you were really part of one of the largest collective commercial production agencies in Tampa Bay. So for people who maybe only recently come to Tampa Bay, or they only know the production companies that are here now, but originally it was really just one company. You had Tampa Digital, and they were like the only game in town. And now you look at all the production companies that have exploded and expanded in Tampa Bay, and most of them had their origins at Tampa Digital. So walk us through sort of those early years at Tampa Digital, and as Tampa sort of transformed more and more into a commercial market.
Yeah, I love the origin of Tampa Digital. So I had a production company where I was doing corporate videos, small commercials, music videos, still weddings at the time. But I started doing films. We did El Fin, The Dance, and I got the attention of the owner, George, of Tampa Digital, and he offered me a job. It was at the time I actually had colleagues saying, "What are you doing? You have your own production company. I can't believe you're selling out." I'm like, I'm not selling out. I'm trying to move on to bigger clients and bigger productions. I was like, because I only know what I know. And at the time, Mike McCourt was there, Rob Teasler, Jeff McCown. There's all these big players there. They had big clients. So I went there and I learned a ton.
Yeah.
And I wind up now working on commercials like Transitions and Dell and Purina. So it was amazing. And everybody there is probably the most talented people in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. Everybody, when the company dissolved, they all started their own companies.
Yeah. Including Tim Moore, who was a videographer. Now
he's one of the biggest production companies in the country.
In Tampa Bay. Well, actually, you're right, in the country with View and View Studios.
Yeah.
Now View Technologies. But he was a wedding videographer who decided, like, hey, I could do this in commercials too, and he started working for Tampa Digital.
He was my videographer at one point.
Yeah.
This kid, Tim Moore, was a videographer for me. I remember going on a corporate shoot after we did Childish Dream Tales the next day, and we did some, I don't even know what the heck it was. And I was like, I'm sorry, I'm making you do this shoot. And he's like, whatever, I'm just trying to learn.
Yeah.
And then he asked me, how much does an HMI cost? How do you do budgets? And then all of a sudden, he started one of the biggest production companies. I was like, what just happened?
It shows you the importance of networking, but also just being present and paying attention on set. Like, you can learn a lot just by the people around you.
I was like, holy cow. Then, Jeff now works at, Jeff McCown works at Diamond View. He runs it. Rob Teasler started his own company.
Man, yep.
Javier Fick is now a successful DP.
Yeah, living out in LA and doing all kinds of things.
Yeah, Joe Clay started Yellow Dog Party, which is an amazing animation company.
Yep.
So it's like insane what happened. Even Ryan Sebastian, who I used to call Little Ryan Sebastian, now is he worked for Diamond View, and now he tours with Def Leppard.
Yeah. George Zwerko and Mike Compton.
George Zwerko started his own company.
Yeah, Roombo. I mean, if you really look at the DNA of the Tampa Bay production companies, almost all of them have someone who started at Tampa Digital or was a principal at Tampa Digital.
No, it's really cool. Everybody will ask me, like, what the heck? Why did everybody know Tampa Digital? I was like, because we all started that.
Yeah.
And then when we broke apart, we're all so talented that we created our own companies or our own entities or identities.
Yeah, let's move into that now. So after post Tampa Digital, you created Kestum Bilt.
Yeah.
From the ground up. So give us a little bit of information. What's not the mission statement, but like, what is Kestum Bilt?
Kestum Bilt is mainly, we're an advertising and commercial and branded content production company. So that was my main focus. As Kip Hewitt, one of our directors, said one time during an interview, he goes, I like to do very short films, meaning no longer than 2 minutes. And I do work on films. We create my own. I'm working on a film right now. That's not mine, but I'm working as a producer on it. But I like doing commercials because I like doing the advertisement. I like working with advertising agencies and corporations to create this branded content and these commercials that help make them money.
Yeah.
It actually feels good, which is different from films, because when you're doing a film, you're trying to sell it, unless it's a Hollywood blockbuster. You're creating something and now you're trying to sell it. When it comes to advertising and commercials, we're helping make people money. And to be honest, I like making people money because when you make people money, guess what?
They're going to come back to you.
They're going to come back to you and help you make more money.
You've had some major clients over the years. I remember the Citizen Watch shoot in Seiko Watch shoot. That's what it was.
Seiko.
That was crazy up in Atlanta where you had a million different moving parts.
Yeah. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So we got the job with Seiko. It was with Dentsu, which is out of Japan and everywhere else. They're huge. Gravity. And they hired us and we did the shoot in Atlanta. It's insane. It is because it's a 1-day shoot and it took 6 weeks of pre-production.
Yeah.
So
you had was it a NASCAR driver or
Jimmy Johnson.
That was Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah, no, it was with Jimmy Johnson. So we were in Atlanta doing pre-production for 4 weeks. I did 2 weeks in Tampa, just kind of try to relax. And then we did 4 weeks nonstop, like 18-hour days, because we had Jimmy Johnson for 6 hours. And we had to film him around Atlanta, driving a car. So we not only had him on a process trailer, not only do we have him doing car-to-car shots, and not only do we have a photo shoot going with him, we also had radio spots we did with him. We did photography with him. And it was It was probably one of the best experiences ever now that I look back on it, but it's probably the most stressful thing I've ever dealt with in my life. It was crazy. So we had 5 different crews. You looked at our call sheet, you thought you're looking at a film shoot. We had 75 crew members. So
that's massive. And if for people who think Tampa traffic is terrible, Atlanta's traffic is unbearable.
Oh, it was awful. And we only had them for 6 hours. So we had stunt drivers, we had body doubles, hand doubles, you like name it, we had everything.
Yeah.
And so we had, like I said, we had our 5 crews. We had one crew that was in the parking lot or parking garage that was filming the body double, and then eventually Jimmy would jump in when he got the set. We had another crew doing car-to-car shots with a stunt double. We had another crew doing the process trailer and camera truck shots. And so it was it was a massive shoot, and at the time it was awful, but now I look back on
it's a great spot.
I was like, I can't believe we pulled that off. When you watch it, you're like, oh, that was a great commercial. But when you know about the stories, I'm like, holy cow, this was like, it was insane. I actually at one point we had 3 Corvettes.
You got to find the exact same Corvette, same color, same everything.
3 red Corvettes, because for every area, there's no way to get that Corvette on the process trailer or do the car to car or in the parking lot. So we had to get 3 Corvettes. And then 12 hours before the shoot, the agency calls me up and goes, Jimmy Johnson's team says you are not allowed to put Jimmy Johnson in a Corvette. He drives Camaros.
Then you had to find 3 Camaros.
And I'm like, what the F? I saw John Phobes at the time, our producer. He's on the phone, and I saw his jaw drop while we're in our office. And I'm like, well, that's not good. And I go, what just happened? He goes, they said we can't shoot in Corvettes. And we just rented 3 Stingray Corvettes, about like $10,000. And I have 3 Stingray Corvettes downstairs in our office in Atlanta.
Do you just pass the keys out? Like, all right, we're all driving these the rest of the week.
Yeah, we just drove them around. I was like, what do we do? And then we, luckily, because Atlanta, is a fast and furious city. So we did our research, and we found someone really fast at a car dealership who was part of a car club that actually worked on Fast and Furious films, and we're able to get 3 Camaros. They're all the same body, different colors. So in post, we just had
to color match it.
Yeah, we just had to color match it in post.
That's wild.
Yeah. Just 12 hours before the biggest shoot you've ever had.
Right.
I don't even want to tell you how much money it was. You're just like, oh, crap.
But you got to make it work.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You don't blink. You just go.
The train's in the tracks. We just got to make sure somehow we can finish
this. It is in production. Unlike, even though I like to compare production companies to construction companies, in construction, you could kind of delay.
Yeah.
Production, you can't delay. You're shooting tomorrow. That's it.
You got the actor for those hours, and then once he's gone, if you didn't capture it, you're done.
Yeah, it's finished. So you got to make it work.
Wild. What are some of the other big clients you've worked with over the years?
A lot. Navy Federal Credit Union.
Yeah, that's a big one. I remember those guys.
Yeah, we did several commercials with them, which was amazing times. We've built sets with them. We shot stuff all over Tampa Bay with them, which is amazing because, they're out of Virginia or DC, depending on which office it is. And it was amazing to bring them to Tampa Bay because they said, where do you want to shoot this? And I go, we can shoot anywhere you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
And they're like, what about Tampa? I go, I would love for you to shoot in Tampa.
Yeah, and they roll out of bed in the morning and go right to set.
Yeah,
that's all the better.
And they showed up, and we did the first shoot with them, and we did 6 more after.
Yeah,
because they were like, they love Tampa so much that they just want to keep coming down.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah,
I didn't have to pay you for that one.
No, I mean I've done Strixon. We probably produced about, me and Kip and Devin Hewitt, the executive producer. We probably produced about 20 commercials for Strixon. All over the country, which includes Cleveland Golf as well, and Zexio. We've produced them everywhere from Houston to LA to everywhere in South Florida. We've done Dick's Sporting Goods jobs up in Pittsburgh, over in Howie in the Hills, Golf Galaxy. So yeah. I've I've been very fortunate, to be honest. I don't know how it happened.
Yeah, that's why I said you're very lucky. You just keep falling forward.
It just happened. I just all of a sudden I was like, when I first started Kestum Bilt, me and Frank, who's our sales executive, I said, I only want to produce big agency jobs. That's all I want to do. Like the small ones will come, and you take them, which is fine. But I was like, I want to produce big agency jobs. And that's what we did. I mean, we started with our first big client was Napa.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Terminex.
Yep.
And like literally in the first year, we did Terminex and Napa.
Yeah. You did a big Napa shoot in Plant City, right? If I remember right.
Yeah.
It was the Spanish language one.
Yeah. You're the one who helped.
Yeah. I remember. Now it's just coming back to me. We had to close some roads and do some.
We went in 5 jurisdictions.
Yeah. You were everywhere. That was a pain.
Yeah.
Because we kept having to hand off from like, here's Plant City PD, here's FHP, Highway Patrol. And like, oh man.
And to this
now
day,
I remember.
To this day, the agency PM3 who hired us said it was the best produced commercial we've ever done.
That's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
As long as there's no problems, everything keeps moving.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of problems.
There always is.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems the day of the shoot. At one point, I'm showing up to set and I go, where's the process trailer? Where's the super technic crane? And JC, Jonathan Chambers, goes, they're stuck on I-4 in an accident.
I'm not surprised.
And I'm with the agency creative director and producer. I'm like, what's going on? There are delays? Like, no, there's no delays. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Everything's good. And then, we're about to go on the road.
Yeah.
And the generator doesn't work.
Oh God.
On the truck, on the process trailer. And they go, everything fine? I go, oh yeah, everything's fine.
Great.
I go over to Doug Fanclu, the electrician at the time, not the gaffer. And I go, just figure something out.
Yeah. you have to pull a putt or go to Home Depot.
That's what they did.
It.
They put putts on there and nobody knew the difference.
Yeah, of course not.
Luckily, luckily we had LEDs at the time.
Yeah. So it wasn't a big draw on it.
Yeah, we have been screwed.
I remember when we were doing commercials and something would go wrong and the agency's like, is everything okay? It's like, oh yeah, 5 minutes. It was always 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And 30 minutes later, 5 minutes, we're almost there.
Yeah. I was actually with George Werko at that time. Yeah. I go, George, just distract them for a second. Yeah. And I go to our DP, I go, just get some sky panels or something.
Anything. Yeah. This is a good time to take the agency. Let's go to lunch. We'll break early for lunch.
Yeah. Take them to craft.
Yeah. Get out of here. All right. Well, we're coming to the end of the podcast here. We've been talking for almost 40 minutes now. Just some final things. You've bootstrapped your own production company. You've made movies. You're working on a new movie coming up. What is just some advice to a young filmmaker who is starting out? Maybe they're at UT right now. Maybe there's someone at TBCN who's going through their training program right now. Like, what's the one thing you wish someone had told you when you were that age?
The best advice I can give, which I give everyone, because you've done Jolt with me, where we teach students, young and old, is one, be humble. Always be humble. Try to learn from other people on set. Don't try to think you're a director right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Like if you try to do that, I've seen that happen and people have failed all the time. And then they wind up doing something else because they want to be the next Spielberg. I'm like, that's great. Maybe you could be the next Spielberg, but be humble right away and learn on set.
Yeah.
I love there's a couple PAs on set that they want to absorb everything. And then you have PAs who don't want to do anything. So I say, be humble and learn from the people, your producers, your directors, your DPs. Ask questions when it's good. The other advice is I always say, everyone, if you're not painting, you're not a painter.
Yeah.
So if you're not filming anything, you're not you're not a cinematographer. You're not a director. You're not a producer. So like, what are you doing? To sit there and just talk about an idea constantly, but actually not do anything.
Yeah.
I don't care if it fails. It doesn't matter if it does succeed, if it's crap, if it's great, it doesn't matter because you're going to learn from that experience. So you have to do something.
Yeah.
It's any business.
No, that's super, super good advice. And there's so many people that's paralysis where they want to make something, but they're waiting for the right opportunity, right? Then there's never going to be the right opportunity.
No.
You just got to make it happen when you can.
Do something.
Yeah.
Let it fail. Who cares? What's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen if it fails?
Maybe not pay your bills and have to sleep on an air mattress somewhere, but you know, keep moving forward.
Yeah, you got to progress in life. I don't care what business it is. You got to try something. What I'm doing over there, you know, stuff fails and then you redo it and you try again and then you eventually succeed.
You got to keep moving forward.
Wow. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with failing in life.
No, there absolutely is not. It's assuming you learn something from the failure.
Yeah. Hopefully you learn something. From the
if you just keep failing and you don't learn your lesson, then that's on you.
Yeah.
Well, Pete, it's been excellent just talking with you, sitting down, going back through some memories of TBCN and Tampa Digital.
Oh, last thing.
Oh, yeah.
Last thing. Opportunities.
Okay.
Always, if somebody calls you up or somebody has something or you see an opportunity, go for it.
Yes.
There's opportunities are the best way to succeed in life.
And just like talking to the agency person where's my techno crane at? It's like, you just got to make it work sometimes.
When people told me not to go to Tampa Digital, they were like, why are you going there? I was like, it's an opportunity for me to grow. When I left Tampa Digital and HSN hounded me for like 2 months, and everyone's like, I can't believe you're going to HSN. I go, it's an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it all worked out. And that's how I started Kestum Bilt.
And like your first point of advice, you can learn through osmosis, right? By just being present around people and never be afraid to hire people that are better than you.
Right.
Or work with more talented people, because you will learn, you'll be challenged by those people.
Exactly.
Super important.
Yeah.
Well, with that, we need to close out. Where can people find more about you, Mr. Guzzo?
You can go to pguzzo.com or kestumbilt.com.
Okay. Got it. So that's pguzzo.com or Kestum Bilt. Spell Kestum Bilt because it's interesting.
KESTUMBILT.com.
I hope that was intentional. You just can't spell.
As everybody said, you need to come up with a creative name. I go, why? My work is going to speak for itself. So I'm going to come up with the stupidest name ever.
I love that.
I was like, I'll show everybody. Like, it doesn't matter what the hell the name is.
I absolutely love that. That is one of the best ways to end the podcast. So with that, Pete, thanks so much, buddy.
Thank you.
And to our audience, we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Straight Podcast. Well, ladies, that was a great interview. It was fun to sort of reminisce about Tampa Bay, somebody who'd been here almost from the beginning as far as the commercial industry exploding.
Yeah.
You were not here early enough to experience Tampa Digital. In fact, I don't think you were either.
I wasn't either. I mean, I'm born and raised in Tampa Bay, but I was not in the industry at that time.
So what did you think about, I mean, I don't even know if you knew the past about Tampa Digital and how they sort of affected all the different production companies.
No, I was actually really surprised to see how many names and companies had a tie to it, and to look at that DNA and see like, oh, wow, this really is a much more connected scene than maybe it seems at first.
Yeah. They were the largest film employer outside of HSN at the time.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Most of the creatives and principals, as I said, both at the intro, but during the interview as well, they've all gone on to make huge production companies. And it's funny, someone like Tim Moore, who owns Diamond View, View Studios, View Technologies, or was the founder of it anyway, started out as a like intern / videographer towards the end of the Tampa Digital era. And now he owns one of the largest production companies in Tampa Bay and really in the United States. I mean, he's got presences in 4 different states now.
Right.
And he was just the small little videographer who was starting out. He'd just done weddings prior to that and some church videos.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Pretty wild.
Yeah, it is.
It's exciting to see the trajectory of all of these different people and to see like, hey, they all got their start doing something very humble and local, and like look at all the crazy, amazing things they're doing.
Yeah, it really is.
What were some of the projects at Tampa Digital? Do you know of any examples of what Tampa Digital produced?
It's going way back. I mean, they had the lion's share of the commercials in town.
Okay.
They were almost entirely commercial and corporate focused. But you asked me what the clients were. Man, I can't remember that far back.
Well, what era is that? Are we talking about?
So you're looking at 2008-ish, and they started, I think, around 2005, I want to say. So they were around till about 2010, I think, is when it started finally dissolving. And their big thing is that, and there's a lot of companies that do this now, but they had a bunch of creative people at the top who were your producers, your writers, your directors, right? And then they had a ton of post people. So a lot of the really good post people here in town that focused on lower thirds, animation, post-production editing, Avid. Premiere really wasn't a thing at the time, but they cut their teeth there. So they would not only produce productions for agencies and commercials from around the U.S. and the world, but they'd also do all the post in-house. And back then it was a little different where there was actually still full post houses in town. Like that's weird to say now because there's really not a lot of those left. But we had a big post-production company called Magnolia, which I could have brought up during the interview, that did nothing but post. Right? That's all they did. So you did whatever, you shot it and you sent it to them and they would do all the edits and
that is so fascinating.
But that doesn't really exist anymore. Everything's sort of in-house now and it's sort of one-stop shops.
But this episode kind of serves as a little bit of history of our film and TV.
Yeah, and Tampa Digital a lot, but there's a lot of people that started out at TBCN too, or Tampa Bay Community Network. Did you guys ever watch public access? You're maybe a little too young for that.
When I was a kid, like late at night when there was nothing else on, but
I watched the Education Initiative on Saturday mornings with like different zoo and animal shows. That's probably the closest I ever experienced, other than watching just Wayne's World, the movie.
Yeah, so. But I mean, it was this weird time where it's like, after 10 p.m., surfing around the channels, and we didn't have a whole lot of channels, back in the day, but it's like, oh, what is this weird thing? And there'd be some weird guy on a couch with a red phone, taking phone calls and screaming at people, and it's like, what is going on? And there was like a weird like BDSM sex show, not like a porn, but like, here's how to spank someone. It was bizarre, right? It just, but the stuff was on TV because there was just really no regulations. Like it's for freedom of speech.
That is so interesting.
Yeah. There's nothing else on to watch at 2 a.m.
That's right.
I almost feel like there's more restrictions now with YouTube because you made the analogy of like YouTube kind of supplementing that a little bit now.
Yeah, and I think that's the most logical leap from public access to YouTube because content producers, you could say Twitch and other things too.
But it sounds like public access was wild.
Oh, it was absolutely bonkers, and people hated it. I mean, like politicians, like why are we funding these people? But they had to. In fact, cable channels to this day, even if a market doesn't have a public access channel, they have to dedicate a channel for free to public access. It's part of their charters. But Pete started out with the Spooters, which it's kind of difficult to watch these days, but it's fun. So if you guys want to Google Spooners TVCN, it'll come up. You won't understand a single word that's coming out of his mouth unless you're from New Jersey. But
I like foreign films.
Yeah. I mean, you almost need subtitles, and I don't even think the auto AI generated subtitles could follow what he was saying. But, it's wild. But it was fascinating that he made that movie because I knew a lot of the people working on Delson when he was making it. And then everyone was like, where did it go? I didn't know the backstory that it got shelved. So that's the first time he's ever told me that. Because they made it and we did a little premiere for the people who worked on it, people who knew people on it. And then just, where'd it go? Just disappeared. Yeah, but there you go.
Interesting.
But that seems to be helping a lot right now, right? I mean, we just had the Wile E. Coyote, Acme cartoon. Well, not a cartoon. It was like a cartoon pseudo live action.
Yeah.
They just got shelved, buried, even though it was completely finished. And it had gone out for press review, right? And the write-ups were amazing. Like, this is the best thing. I mean, it was really, because it was a courtroom drama.
Yeah.
Which is bizarre, right? With Wile E. Coyote, suing by the Roadrunner, and they're sort of defending him. But it was like, the reviews were like, this is one of the best things that Warner's put out in years. And then they shelved it because tax purposes.
Offended somebody.
No, they did a write-off. Same thing they did with Batgirl.
Okay, yeah.
So if they don't release it, it never generates profit. They can write off the entire budget.
It's so crazy to think about that from like an archival perspective. Like it just disappears. And there's nowhere that it goes to for historical, like, to keep track of it. I don't know. But
you know, that also, I mean, that's actually pretty common in film. I don't want to get too archaic here, but like pigeonholing is a thing, and it's a thing in the industry that's been around for decades, right? Where, hey, I own the rights to this thing, whatever it is. Like in the 80s, Roger Corman had the rights to Captain America and the Avengers, essentially, right? Yeah. So they pushed out a movie that Roger Corman did that no one has ever seen. I mean, it's
not the Fantastic Four one, but something else.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was the Fantastic Four. Maybe I'm misremembering it, but What's the one with the stretchy guy? That's Fantastic
Yeah,
Four. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so it was Fantastic Four. So it was made in the 80s. It was never released. It was shelved. And I think since then, a copies leaked on the internet. But they've been doing this for years and years.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Blown.
they'll do it with scripts too. I mean, a lot of not distributors, but studios will just buy up scripts so someone else can't make that script. If they have no intention of ever making it, just like, nope, sorry.
That's got to be so depressing as a filmmaker. You worked so hard on this project, maybe put years of your life into it, and then it just goes into a box somewhere.
Yeah, somewhere in a vault that no one will ever see.
Yeah.
That is depressing.
Until it's leaked online. Yeah. That's how Deadpool was made. I mean, the original one, no one wanted to make it. And Ryan Reynolds famously leaked a trailer him and the director put together, and then it was such a phenomenon online that Sony had to be like, all right, we'll make this. But yeah, I mean, it's bizarre that creativity can just disappear sometimes.
Yeah. Well, maybe you'll get lucky like Pete.
Maybe.
We mentioned a couple times in the interview how he was just lucky and kept falling forward. But then towards the end of the interview, when he had those 3 bits of advice of, always be present and take opportunity, I was like, oh, it sounds to me like he made his own luck a little bit too.
No, he did. And when I said he was lucky, I mean, luck does play a lot into it. But luck is often self-made, right? You put yourself in the right position, the right opportunity to be lucky. Yeah. And I think he's always done that. And I think a lot of the people who have been successful in the film industry can say the same thing. But I think being present is one of the best things you could give advice to a young filmmaker.
Yeah.
Anything else you took away, Hilary?
I really liked what he was saying about you have to try, you have to be able to fail, because if you don't try, you're never going to succeed either. So you've got to put yourself out there, even though it might be uncomfortable to fail. You might end up learning more from that than an experience where you've been totally successful.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too angry here, but sometimes you see these comments online or on social media, and it's like, you've never done anything, right? Especially when you see these user reviews and scores, and they're taking not a objective criticisms, like, okay, this doesn't work here or there, but there's vitriol behind it, this, that, and the other.
Yeah,
it's like, man, what have you made? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
At least respect the process.
Yeah.
And what goes into it.
People worked on this. They put a lot of time and effort into this, whether you like the product,
that's a great
or not.
and important point to bring up. That's valid.
But it's like, all right, cool. What have you done? Can you name something? Have you made a short film? Have you made a commercial? Have you made a feature film? Well, no, but I have a really great idea. Well, until you make that idea into something, you have nothing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a point that it gets lost sometimes online. All right. Anything else?
No.
All righty then. Well, we'll wrap this one up here. Jesse, Brock, where can they find more about us?
We are Loose Framing Podcast. Stream us anywhere you listen to podcasts or watch us on YouTube. And don't forget to follow us at Film Tampa Bay.
And with that, we'll see you next time.